Hello again. My name is Philip Whiteland, and in the normal way of things, when I'm not doing anything more constructive, I'm the author of the Nostalgia series books, which are Steady Past Your Grannies, Kick at the Pantry Door, Crutches for Ducks, Giving the Bull Strawberries, and The Things You See. Now, nostalgia is one of those portmanteau words where you get two words and crush them together. So in this case, we've got nostalgia on one hand and comedy on the other. Ran them together and we finished up with nostalgia. Could have been comedy and nostalgia, and then we'd have had camalgia. But I always feel that sounds like something awfully painful that you're suffering from. It's camalgia all down one side. So settled on nostalgia instead. But what I want to talk to you about today is nothing to do with the nostalgia books, although if you want to read those, I will be absolutely delighted. However, recently, what I've tried to do is go back to my first love, which was humorous fiction. And as a consequence of that, got two books out that are those indeed. So there we are. We've got A Dubious Undertaking and Other Stories, and Grave Expectations. And what I thought I'd do today was to introduce you to the characters in those two books, who are Josiah Oakshott and Archibald Thurble, who work at an Undertakers called Oakshott and Underwood. And this is the title story of A Dubious Undertaking, called, not surprisingly, A Dubious Undertaking. Josiah Oakshott steepled his fingers and sighed as he looked around the familiar oak-panelled walls of the dimly lit office. Sunlight of sorts struggled through the stained glass of the narrow windows high above. He sighed again and rearranged the papers lying on the desk before him. The heavy knock on the door made him jump, but he quickly recovered his composure and intoned, "Come." The door cracked open, and a tall, lanky figure in an ill-fitting black suit edged into the office. You wanted to see me, Mr. Oakshott?" the figure asked, clearly hoping the answer would be in the negative. "Ah, yes, Archibald. Please take a seat." Archibald Thurble arranged himself in the seat in a sort of slightly organised pile. He seemed to Josiah to be a series of ill-fitting joints, badly assembled and poorly tailored. "Archibald, firstly, may I take this opportunity to apologise on behalf of the company for the entirely unexpected and very difficult situation that you found yourself in last week?" Archibald breathed a sigh of relief. He'd been expecting to be hauled over the coals. "Cool, that's all right, Mr. Oakshott. I only did what any other bloke would have done." "Well, we'll come to that shortly, Archibald. For the moment, I have to say that I take full responsibility for the unfortunate situation. Had I known that the entire staff of our little firm, excepting yourself, of course, would be struck down by gastroenteritis whilst I was taking my annual holidays, I would have returned immediately. Regrettably, as I was sojourning at a hilltop retreat in the wilds of Tibet, news did not reach me until my arrival at Heathrow." "Not to worry, Mr. O. I had the whole thing well in hand," Archibald assured him cheerily. "Yes, well, that is as may be, Archibald, and I do appreciate your efforts to maintain the running of this complex and difficult business, despite having only a few weeks' basic training." "Ta," said Archibald, relaxing visibly. "However, there are a number of issues arising from your stewardship which we need to address. Shall I begin with the case of the Reverend W. Pemberton?" "Oh, yes, the Rev," Archibald stated brightly. "What's the problem?" "The problem, Archibald," Josiah opened another folder and extracted a document, "is that when Miss Hermione Pemberton, the niece of the late Reverend, called this office to make arrangements for her husband's funeral, you allegedly said to her, and I quote, 'Struth, do you mean to say that he's only just conked it? I thought he'd shoved off years ago, and you just propped him up in the pulpit for the look of the thing.' Do you recall that conversation, Archibald?" "Oh, yeah, of course I do." Archibald leaned forward in his seat and looked about him conspiratorially. "I was trying to lighten the mood." "Lighten the mood," Josiah said incredulously. "Yeah, well, in them old Reader's Digest in the waiting room, there's that bit about laughter is the best medicine. Well, Miss Pemberton sounded a bit upset, so I thought I'd try and make her see the funny side." "Really?" Well, in that regard, you seem to have failed abysmally. Miss Pemberton, despite her family having done business with this firm for decades, has chosen to make the final arrangements for her uncle with a competitor. Oh, Archibald said, crestfallen. Oh, indeed, Archibald. Then we come to the unfortunate business of Mr. Tompkins. Archibald chuckled. This is not a laughing matter, Thurble, Josiah shouted, but quickly regained his composure. I'm sorry, Archibald. Please forgive my intemperance. The past few days have been something of a strain. Now, Mr. Tompkins, he moved another manila folder to the top of the pile and extracted some papers. As I understand it from the police report, you took it upon yourself to embalm the late Mr. Tompkins yourself, despite having no training whatsoever in this regard. Is that correct? Well, I thought I'd give it a go, Mr. Oakshott. I'd watched some of the lads at it, and it didn't seem to me there was much to it. I see. But you encountered a problem when it came to the embalming fluid, is that correct? Couldn't find none, Archibald confirmed. You couldn't find none, indeed. Josiah massaged his throbbing temple for a moment. Tell me, Archibald, what did you do instead? Went down the garage and got some unleaded. You went down the garage and got some unleaded. Yeah, there was an offer on too. I've got one of them wind-up torches. He pulled a torch from one of his pockets. It works a treat down the mortuary. Had it not occurred to you, Archibald, that given Mr. Tompkins' express wish to be cremated, filling his remains full of unleaded petrol might not be the wisest choice of actions? Didn't think, Mr. Oakshott, Archibald muttered. You didn't think. You are aware, are you not, that the resultant explosion permanently removed the hearing of the crematorium superintendent, demolished the Balmoral Chapel, and deposited Mr. Grimes, the crematory attendant, 2 miles away? There was a bit of a bang, Archibald agreed. A bit of a bang? Had it not been for the happy accident of Mr. Grimes landing on a pile of mattresses awaiting disposal at the municipal refuse depot, we could have been facing a murder charge. He bounced quite a bit, Archibald sniggered. I have no idea whether he bounced or otherwise, and it is immaterial to this conversation, Josiah snapped. As for the late Mr. Tompkins, there was no trace whatsoever. But I saw his missus just going out with the urn, Archibald said, perplexed. Mrs. Tompkins is about to inter 2 pounds of premium quality cat litter along with the detritus from my wood-burning stove, and we can only hope she doesn't decide to open the urn and examine the contents beforehand. Josiah extracted a fresh linen handkerchief from his pocket and dabbed at his forehead. But Oakshott and Underwood should be reduced to this. She'll never know the difference, Archibald said reassuringly. We can only hope. Finally, we come to the newspaper advertisement. Do you know to what I'm referring, Archibald? Think so, Mr. Oakshott. For as long as I can remember, Archibald, Oakshott and Underwood have had a box advertisement to the right of the title of the Merkin under Heathwood Advertiser. The masthead, as I believe it is known in the trade. This is always read, Oakshott and Underwood, understanding and sympathy at your time of need. Do you recall that, Archibald? I've noticed it, yes, Mr. Oakshott. I had no idea, Archibald, that when the Merkin under Heathwood Advertiser sends out its quarterly bills for the cost of this advertisement, that there is an additional section to which one can enter a change of wording for the advertisement, if one should so wish. But you, Archibald, you spotted this, didn't you? Yeah, I saw it when the bill arrived. And you saw fit to change the wording, didn't you? Yeah. Would you like to remind me as to your revised wording, Archibald? Well, it says Oakshott and Underwood. It does indeed, but what does it then go on to say? We shift stiffs, Archibald muttered. I thought it'd be snappier and stuff. We shift stiffs, Josiah exclaimed despairingly. He put his head in his hands and wept bitter tears. Archibald watched with some concern for a minute, and then decided that he should withdraw tactfully. He could see that Mr. Oakshott was clearly overcome with emotion, and there would be time enough for his grateful thanks when he'd recovered. Archibald slipped out of the room, proud of a job well done. So that's the title story from A Dubious Undertaking and Other Stories. And that introduces Josiah Oakshott and Archibald Thurble, my two characters who are featured in this book. And they've got a book all to themselves. This is the sequel, Grave Expectations, The Further Misadventures of Josiah Oakshott and Archibald Thurble. Now, neither of these are exactly a king's ransom. They're both available on Kindle, and they both cost just 99 pence each. And if you want to find out where they are, well, you can see here are the links for them. So, A Dubious Undertaking and Other Stories, it's getbook.at and then / A Dubious Undertaking. And then for Grave Expectations, it's getbook.at / or one word, Grave Expectations. So getbook.at in both cases / and then A Dubious Undertaking or Grave Expectations. And those are the universal links. So it doesn't matter where you are in this wonderful globe of ours, that will take you to your local Amazon site. And for 99p or the local equivalent, you can get your copy of the books and learn a lot more about, probably a lot more than you'd actually want to know, about Josiah Oakshott and Archibald Thurble. Hope you enjoy those. Hope you enjoyed the story that we've just done. And thanks so much for listening, as always. And I'll see you again soon.